say I'm in, right?
Mhm.
That's the keyword that we usually use whenever for people to indicate that they're ready to buy or they're ready to move forward. We just say, hey, just message me back the word I'm in, so I know that you're ready, and then we'll get you all set up, right?
Yes.
So that's off of the VSL. Perfect. So when people say I'm in, the first step is always what we call a double confirmation. Okay. So what is a double confirmation? Well, let's go to our script. So I'm gonna stop sharing this for a second. Let's go to Brandon's script. Okay, let's go to Iowa agent. Perfect. So the first thing is always a double confirmation, right? So double confirmation is this. It's me asking two questions at the same time, basically, right? So they say I'm in, and I ask for two things. I say, perfect. Do you have 3 minutes right now to complete the enrollment, or are there any more? So we shouldn't say any more. It should be, are there any questions for me that I can answer, essentially, right?
Mhm.
So the reason that we ask this question is because one, we want to. If somebody says I'm in, right? That does not
Yeah.
mean that they're ready to buy right now. It just means that they're in. And so, what that means is we want to move the sale forward, right? So that's why we say, perfect. Do you have 3 minutes right now to complete the enrollment? Because if they are ready to buy, they're going to say yes, and then we can drop a payment link, right?
Okay.
And then we follow up with and we bunch it in with the second question, which is, or are there any more questions that I can answer for you? The reason that we do that is so that way we can also open them up for questions, right? So we're moving the sale forward, but then also, so I think a good way to think of this, I'm trying to think of a good analogy. Okay, so a good analogy for this is, imagine that your foot is on a gas pedal, right? And so like as long as they don't tell me no, I'm gonna push my foot on the gas pedal and move the car a little more forward. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So
Yes. Makes sense.
I'm
Yes.
always I'm always gonna take an opportunity to move that pedal forward, no matter what, right? So taking that on another example, it's like kind of like if you're out on a date with a girl, right? Well, like you're gonna have to move that interaction forward, whatever way you want to move it. You know what I mean? And so, obviously, hey, we go out on a date. Hey, then maybe we go for a kiss, and then et cetera, and then
You are
we get
seeking
married and
consent.
whatever. Right? Yeah, exactly. Right. But whenever you're going through this process, right? Like if there is not a direct no from the girl, then you have no reason not to move forward. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So that's the same thing. Same concept applies here, right? So we're always going to take the opportunity to move the conversation forward as long as it's available, and as long as there's not like a direct, like statement that says that we shouldn't. So that's
Yes.
why when
Yes.
someone says I'm in, then we go for this double confirmation, because we're moving the conversation forward. They didn't say anything about not moving forward, so we should just assume that they're ready, right? And then, and then we open up for the possibility for them to ask questions right here, right? So you're gonna find that a lot of like there's I'd say maybe like 10% of the people are gonna buy immediately, right? So they're gonna be like, when you drop this script to them, they're gonna be like, no, I'm ready right now, and then you're gonna be able to drop the payment link, and it's over, right? And then the other 90% are going to be, as soon as you drop this line to them, they're going to start asking questions. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Um, so cool. All right. So let me go back to our whiteboard right here. Okay. Oh, wait, not a new whiteboard. No, I want the one I was just using. Okay. Hold on. Sometimes Zoom pisses me off. Okay, perfect. Yep, open this board. All right. So we started with I'm in, right? And then we go for our double confirmation next. So there's obviously different ways that it's going to go from here, right? So some people, and by the way, tell me if I'm going too fast for you, because this is like
No.
pretty heavy stuff. Okay.
No. 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 Yeah. Yeah. Good. You're good.
Okay. So then, people are going to have questions, right? So sometimes So after the double confirmation, maybe they say something like they have a question about the offer, right? That's gonna be one scenario that happens. Another scenario that's gonna happen is, somebody, like, they're gonna say I'm in, and then maybe they, ask for a payment plan immediately,
Okay.
right? Or, that might happen, right? Um, right? Payment plan, payment plan immediately. Question about the offer. Other times they're gonna be like, you know, they're gonna be like, I'm ready for the link, send it. Right. So there's a lot of things that kind of happen after this, if that makes sense. Right.
Yes.
So I can't predict every single scenario, right? But I'm just gonna give you an idea of what this flow looks like. So then obviously if they, have questions about the offer, then we are going to answer those questions and, and see if they have questions. uh, right. So that's here. In this case, like if they ask for a payment plan immediately, right? Hey, can I break that up? Yeah, we're gonna give it to them, obviously.
Okay.
Because if someone comes off right off the bat and asks for a payment plan, that they're trying to buy. Does that make sense? So they're
Yes,
like, yeah,
yes,
can I?
makes sense.
Yeah. So it's like, so we will give it to them. Obviously, if we so then obviously if they're ready for the link, we send them the link. So the reason I drew it like this is obviously you're gonna have not a lot of people, but some percentage of people that are just gonna be ready right off the get-go, right? And then the other percentage of the people, whenever you ask them the double confirmation question, they're gonna start asking questions about the offer. They may ask for payment plan. There's a lot of different scenarios that happen right there, right? But
Yeah.
this is why we do the double confirmation first, instead of just going right for the payment link.
Yeah.
Is because of just those other scenarios right here. You know what I mean?
Yes,
So
yes.
on a small percentage of the time, it will work if we just straight up about the payment link, but we lose out on the sales that we could have answered questions first. So that's why we do it
Yes,
this way.
yes.
Make sense?
Yes, yes.
Cool.
It's much better bringing in the questions. It's so much better so
Perfect.
that you can handle some objections. If you don't even handle it well, they still work after the sale, and people start shouting for refund because they
Yep.
didn't gain clarity. So
Exactly. Exactly. So whenever you're gonna notice on my offers, like I invite questions a lot of times. Like I'll ask them if they have them, and I'll clear them up. You know what I mean? Because the thing is that like our job is to make sure they have clarity and to help them make an informed decision to move forward based, I mean, obviously in a persuasive way, right? So
yes, yes,
that being said, we want to clarify all those questions and do that because it's really important because my philosophy, or I shouldn't say my philosophy, but like, have you ever heard this term? A confused prospect never buys.
yes,
Perfect. So that's kind of like my whole philosophy, and I agree because it's like if I'm confused about anything at all. If I don't have clarity on any piece of the offer, I'm not gonna buy it. It's not gonna happen, right? If I don't know how it's gonna help me, if I don't know what I'm gonna get, if I don't know any of that stuff. So obviously, a lot of so I'll say this: the VSL does a really good job of explaining a lot of these things, right? But then obviously, when people consume a VSL, they don't always retain all of it, right? So they may have watched that whole video, but maybe they only retain 10 minutes of it. So which is why we
yes,
have to like go and answer these questions.
yes.
Okay, cool. That's pretty much it, right? And so I'll say this. So like, let's say, let me go through another scenario, which is, and this happens a lot, right? Which is I can't afford it. They're like, I'm in, but I can't afford it right now.
Yeah.
Right? Cool. So if they say something like that, or if they may even say that right at the beginning, you may not even have to take them to a double confirmation. They may say, I'm in, but I can't afford it right now. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So then in that scenario where they say I'm in, I can't afford it for them, right? Then we have right here. So you want to clarify that they understand the process and how everything works. So we want to lightly mention more affordable options, then clarify. Okay. So you might have remembered this from the chat jousting session yesterday where we did this.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Perfect. So that's the first. So remember that when the things that keep people from buying are these three things right here. So I would say I'll call it the three levers of conversion. That actually sounds really cool. That just came out of my head right just now. Yeah, right off of it. Okay. So the three levers of conversion, right? So you have number one is they maybe like three levers of non-conversion.
Non-conversion.
But anyway, they don't trust you. They don't like or understand the product or system. They don't believe they can do it. So too good to be true is a good way to think of that. And then obviously if they don't understand the system, lack of clarity and benefits, and then they don't trust you. This is if they don't trust us, that's
confusion on uncertainty. Okay, yes.
So if they don't trust us, that's our problem on the marketing side, right? So that's not as much of your problem. They should trust us. That's why they've gotten this far in the conversation, right? But sometimes people sometimes people do it, right? They'll be like, yo, I think you're a scammer, or yo, I don't trust you because of X, Y, Z. So, you know what I mean? So sometimes it happens.
It's kind of a broke people tactic.
Yeah, I mean, definitely for sure. But it also depends on the offer, right? Because for example, Jane 108 is like a more spiritual offer, right?
Yes.
And so because it's a more spiritual offer, it allows for some people will kind of take it as BS as well. So anyway, so let's go down this way. So I'm in. Double confirmation. They can't afford it. Then we're going to lightly mention more affordable options and clarify they understand the process and how everything works. And then they're going to say a bunch of stuff, right? Usually right here, whenever people say they can't afford it, usually they have questions, right? Or they're not really sure. So then it kind of cycles back to, this over here. You know what I mean? So if I look at my diagram right here, you see where it's like the questions about the offer. So you see it kind of bends back around because usually when they say they can't afford it, they really can't afford it because they don't understand the value or understand how it's going to help. And now they have questions about the offer. So it goes back over here. We're going to answer those questions and see if they have more questions. Right?
Yes.
And we're going to clarify. Okay, so you kind of see how all this ties together.
Yes, this question opens this reply here. Mention the affordable options, clarify if they understand the process and how it's going to work for them. It kind of opens them up to be able to ask the real question that they want to hear. Like the one you did yesterday, to tell him like, money aside, are you willing to go ahead with this? And you found out he's ready to go ahead. So once you're able to remove that, the rest is easy.
Yep. 100%. Ready. Hold on one second. Okay, perfect. So that is basically the closing process, right? So the reason I bring it up is because let's map this out just a little bit more. So like they mentioned, affordable option clarify. So let's say that they understand everything, right? Let's say that they're cool. No, I understand the process. I understand how it works. I really just can't afford it right now. Cool. Then what we do is, so I take this, so we call it's a broke flow. And so the first one is we get them to agree on value,
Okay.
right? And then two, after we get them to agree on value, then we drop the dynamite script.
Okay, yes. That's how it works.
Right, yeah, that was exactly what we did yesterday, right? It was, they understand how it works. Awesome. Hey, would this be worth it to you if it did X, Y, Z in the next 30 days? Yes. Yeah. Okay. And then we drop the dynamite script, right? Boom. After you drop the dynamite script, they might still say that they can't afford it, right? No problem. If they say they can't afford it, then that's when we go for the downsell on a payment plan. You see?
That makes sense. So you sell the product with the highest value first. Then once you can confirm that they can't afford it, you sell them on a payment plan. So in a way, it doesn't just waste your effort. At least they get in one way or the other. So
Yep. And so the difference being, obviously, if someone asks for the payment plan immediately, that's different, right? Because they're like, yo, like, I'm really interested. I want to get in, but yeah, like, do you have payment plans available? Like, that's a different question than saying I can't afford it. Does that make sense?
yes.
It's a different statement, like, because one has buying intent and the other one does not. Okay, cool.
Yes.
All right, so this is pretty much like just a big overview of everything. So